Good morning, Sreejith. How are you?
Good morning, Raj. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a year since we last met. We met in Dubai in the Ripe Market, and it was my last evening in Dubai. And yeah, I came to Lebanon. You're in Portugal, and yeah, so life. It's been a year since we last met. So tell us about you. What are you doing in Portugal, and your coaching and guidance life these days?
It's nice. Yeah. It's been some time that we met. Life in Portugal is good. Here, people are good. It's very safe. The weather is good. I'm actually into same holistic healing and Feng Shui consultancy. So I do mostly online consultancy for people and for companies. So yeah, and the methodology has been more advanced because I get a lot of
Yeah.
downloads while I'm meditating. So I add those informations or knowledge or wisdom to the healing part. So now I basically do
Okay.
three types of healing. In the sense, it's just one
Mm-hmm.
package called as whole healing, but it's divided into three. Like in the first session,
Mm-hmm.
I basically help to remove all the soul contracts which affect the person emotionally. So let's say somebody goes through some trauma or some challenges in their life with a particular person or a particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
We actually break the contract because contracts are everybody has a contract. Like everybody comes to this world basically to learn or teach. So every second you're either learning or teaching.
Yeah.
So I help them if let's say the learning is done, but you're still traumatized by the emotional experience or you're still challenged with
Yeah.
emotions with that person. I help them to remove the contract so that they can move,
Mm-hmm.
the other person also can move on. And they can focus on better things. They can use that energy for say better things. So the first session is basically to handle the soul contracts or the contracts with people.
Mm-hmm.
Second session is all about you, where I take you to different dimensions to understand about you. Let's say, for example, maybe your wealth block may not be from this life, maybe some other life of people who doesn't believe
Mm-hmm.
in lives or something. Let's take it's a different dimension. So I think that'll be much easier to understand for people. So let's say it's from a different dimensions. So we go to the dimension and shift that wealth program and we create a new reality. So when we create a reality in that space, the whole reality from that till now changes. So you'll start feeling different changes. What's happening with my life? How's
Mm-hmm.
things getting better? Because you're creating a new reality. The more you create a new reality, your vibration changes, your frequency changes, your life changes. So second session is all about personal. It's about you like to understand different things and maybe relationship issues. Why do you have relationship issues? Maybe you had some trust issues in the past from not maybe from not this dimension, maybe some other dimension. So we clear it
Yeah.
from the root level so that it doesn't affect you in the present scenario or in the future. So that's what first we do.
Okay.
And the next one, what we do is the third session is where I introduce your higher self to you. So you
Mm-hmm.
meet your higher self to understand who you are. So basically, the biggest problem in this world is actually the connection between you and yourself. And in the third session,
Mm-hmm.
you actually learn how to connect to yourself because in my healing, it's more than healing, it's teaching. So after the first session, second and third
Mm-hmm.
is basically not only healing, but you learn techniques to practice. So instead of buying you a fish, I'll
Yeah.
teach you how to catch a fish. So you can practice it. So tomorrow you have a challenge.
Uh-huh.
Normally, what happens is you go through a healing, you enjoy it, you have a great day. After 1 week, after 1 month, you're back to the same. Or some issues are sorted, some are still pending.
Mm-hmm.
So what are those things by which after even after
Yeah.
healing you can continue throughout your life where you can attract what you want, you can manifest what you want. So in the second session, I teach them how to manifest things because I take them to the future, to that
Yeah.
moment, what they exactly want, and I add them that in the the theta brainwave. So we have four brainwaves. Beta is when we talk, alpha is the
Yeah.
receptive, where every corporate company uses it for their benefit. Like when you're watching a TV and you're watching it for more than 60 seconds, you're already in alpha. So you're already receiving whatever
Mm-hmm.
they're saying. So the most brands you buy in your life is because you're an alpha. Even if you go to a
Yeah.
sales guy, a marketing guy, and those people start understanding. I mean, if he starts listening to you for more than a minute, he's almost in the receptive mode, so you can sell him
Yeah.
anything. But that's a normal alpha break. If he doesn't have money or if he has a bigger block, maybe you'll not go. But
Yeah.
that is one scenario by which most of the corporate companies or people use unknowingly. So then that's the
Yeah.
second alpha brain wave. The third one is theta. Theta is where you can reprogram stuff. You can reprogram a lifestyle or anything. And the last one is the delta where you actually get into sleep. So basically, I do most of the stuff in theta or between theta and delta. So it's more permanent. So it's more like an autopilot. You don't have to do
Okay.
anything.
Sreejith,
And
before, if you allow me, I have a couple of questions. For first, you said you're in a place of, you're in Portugal right now, and you said, people are good and nice, and things are peaceful and nice. But in most parts of the world now, there's a lot of conflict erupting. As you can
yes,
see, conflicts in Russia and Ukraine, conflicts in the Middle East again. Any conflicts that are happening around the world now are erupting again, and therefore I'm grateful, and I'm glad that you are in a peaceful place, but most people are not. And like today, I wanted, I know we prepared this and we will definitely cover the programs and what we do. But ultimately, you said something, about the balance of teaching and learning. And you said something about teaching people how to fish instead of fishing. So where I am in the world right now, it's a completely opposite spectrum of what you are experiencing due to limited resources, right? And those limited resources are money, it's an economic collapse, it's food, basic safety, survival, electricity, water, like extremely harsh conditions like that you would expect in literally the worst of human conditions. And when we talk about teaching, we talk about education. So the education system so far has been built upon the availability of jobs, right? So it's like, we teach students the skills needed for them to get a job. So there was a good balance between demand and supply, and that worked perfectly well. But like right now, in a place like Lebanon, and where the education system is based not on the human will, it's actually based on intellectual. So they know information, but they don't know what to do with it if they don't get a job. So in a place like Lebanon now, 70% of youth are unemployed. That means you go to university, your parents spend 100, 200, $300,000 on you, and then you go and sit at home. Now, with every 1% increase in unemployment, there is a 5% increase in national psychiatric spend, which means people automatically fall into depression, they fall into anxiety about the future simply because they can no longer make ends meet, right? So my question to you here is about, yes, how do we change that mindset? Because that mindset needs to be not an individual mindset anymore. The earlier man before the industrial revolution was not an employee. So they used to use their mind plus their will, right? Take action in order to create the solution that their community needs. Now that we're employees, if we're out of employment, we don't know what to do. And it's a harsh, I mean, entrepreneurship. Um, we're reaching 2 years. It's the harshest 2 years I've ever experienced in my life in a startup environment. And not everybody, I mean, the success rate, I was just talking a few days ago, success rates, like 50% of startups fail in the first year. 50% of those who survive the first year don't cross the second year, right? So it's like if you're out in the world, you don't have, backup money, you don't have, staff, you don't have legal setups, etc. But now people are falling in mass globally into that unemployment crack, I would call it, because it is a crack until they learn how to fish on their own. So how do you instill that philosophy? Like what is, like, what modules do you use? What philosophy do you use to teach the person that is with you about how to exactly, like start teaching people to fish, like literally? How do you instill that mentality? And I think a lot of people need support, especially those independent people who work independently, like yourself, right? A lot of young of them, but now they won't get jobs. So what do they do? Do they sit at home? No. How do we instill a, wide scale, I would say, change in the way education is done, or in what we do, in order for us to change that mentality into, like the one you described?
it's a very good question. Okay. So before that, I have to start from the basics of how our education system starts. So we basically focus on matter through matter.
Mm.
So you try to get matter through matter, which is like the most impossible thing. So if you want to get matter, you need to understand what is matter. So matter is actually created. I mean, your body is created from energy. So basically, if I take your body and start going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and the final thing I get is an atom. And if I go deeper inside your atom is actually energy.
Yeah.
And recently I've heard somebody saying from science field that the protons in the, like you take a
Mm.
rock from the mountain and the proton side you is the same. So that's the level of similarities we have. So
Mm.
the energy inside of us is the same. So when you start focusing on the energy rather than the matter, so when you're
Mm.
focusing on the matter, it's more on the drama. I'll say what is drama. Let's say a person is having a headache, migraine, and this person takes Volfast. It's a painkiller. So she takes painkiller, and the painkiller gives a little high. So basically, the migraine to the painkiller to the high. So to get the high, she creates situation where she gets a migraine. So
Mm.
it's called so that the whole process is like you attract a particular situation because you get some benefit out of it. Let's say
Yeah.
what is trauma bonding. Let's say there are abusive husbands, abusive families. So even if the husband abuses the wife doesn't leave the house or doesn't leave him. There are so many reasons. One of the reason is after he abuses, some people come and give love after 1 hour. So
Yeah.
after abuse, there is a connection of love. So this person, to get the attention and that love, she creates a situation where this guy abuses her. It's called trauma
Yeah.
bonding. So what I'm saying is, when somebody is in a pain for a long time, subconsciously they're enjoying that pain. That's why they're not leaving it. If they really want to leave that place, they will find a way. For example, in our meetings, when I was working in IKEA, we have a 30-minute meeting. So the first minute is the only minute we talk about the problem. The next 29 minutes, we talk only about the solutions. Whereas in normal meetings, 29 minutes we discuss the problem, we hardly discuss 1 minute for the solution. So when you start focusing on the problem, you'll get.
Lebanon operates like that. Like you go into the grocery, everyone is complaining about how hyperinflation is just eroding their money. Everyone is just focused on the problem and talking about it. It's like I don't want to walk among people because nobody is using any 1% of their brain to create solutions, right? And this is just a mental shift, and as easy as this looks and sounds to us now because we've mastered that, but like for how we've been educated, how we've been brought up, how we're programmed, and how you all describe this, it's incredible. How exactly the focus is. We're trained to think of the problem all the time, and it's like who's going to solve it? It's like somebody's got to take leadership. It's really funny. Like we're talking about this as well, and right now we're, like I said, we're in wide scale wars. There's wars everywhere. Okay, and wars are known to be fought in economic wars, right? It's like, but now it's like, like, I don't know, have you seen, like, the United Nations target is zero killing of animals by 2030. Okay, so they started killing livestock to reduce carbon emissions, but at the same time there's a food crisis, food shortage in wheat. So we have shortage in wheat and shortage in meat, and the prices are inflating for both, and there's wars at the same time. So people are barely making ends meet, literally, like all over the world now. Like there's no abundance anymore. That comfort. It's just people feel like they're struggling, and now people have to take care of more people. Like, oh, their parents back home, they're not doing well, so everybody needs to kind of, everybody's just like barely surviving, right? So when you have that whole frequency on an entire planet, which is that low base, right? It's just like survival, right? It's our lowest base chakra. So imagine the whole planet is just stale on that, you know? How do we change that? Like, because like I said, it's like ultimately this leads to rises in mental illness. It leads to rises in obesity, in addiction, in suicide, and you name it, right? So when people are in this situation, like mass scale loss of jobs, hyperinflation all around the world, food crisis, wars. So this is the current situation, right? Maybe not in Portugal, but this is where I am, and this is where a lot of people are. So therefore, those people who are like Lebanon, 70% of youth unemployment. It rose by 30% in the last 3 years alone. Imagine, so if 1% is equivalent to 5% increase in national psychiatric center. So if you're talking about the student base, we have a disaster. But like you said, the only difference is, do you walk out of university and if you don't get a job, you sit at home? Or do you change your mindset to become a creator? Because this is a shift that you are talking about, right? It's a shift. Okay, if I have a problem, I can't get a job, the market is crap. What do? Do I sit at home and become depressed and take pills? Right? So what do we do here? How do we change that mindset also?
So, okay,
Tell
I
me
have
more
two
about
approach for this. One is a practical approach and one is the energetic approach.
it.
So let me touch the practical approach. See, for example, for me, apart from my Feng Shui and a holistic healing, I do trading and I
Yeah.
make minimum $300 to $400 just for with working with 1 hour. So even
Yeah,
if you have $100 with you, you can make at least $100 to $200 every day if you learn properly. It's not a gambling or
absolutely.
something you need to really learn. But you need to spend only 1 hour to earn $300 in a day. So I'm talking about the practical stuff. If you have a computer and an internet connection, you can do that. If you don't have, you can get it. And at least if you have a Wi-Fi or internet or anything like that, you can earn your
Absolutely.
money just like that. So that's your practical
Absolutely.
stuff. Let's say energetic stuff because we are more energy people. We are here to do something. And we can actually send, for example, there was a scientific study done in a particular area in US where the whole one whole building they were chanting and praying and meditating. So that whole area, 33% of the crime rate went down, which was one of the
Hmm.
most crime. They didn't do anything. They just were chanting and praying and meditating. They didn't do anything. So we
Hmm.
all connected. It's called collective consciousness. For that, I have to just
Yeah.
explain one person who has told about butterfly effect. I think that will help you. So what happened was, I'll tell this, but there was a guy called Henry Rellog or something. He won the Nobel Prize for saving 2 billion people from famine. He found a particular
Hmm.
wheat which helped survive famines in any world. So that was introduced in Asia, Africa, Middle East,
Really?
America,
Okay.
all. And this guy saved so many people just by finding a wheat.
Yeah.
But we don't give thanks to him. It
Yeah.
was actually Henry Wallace, and ex-vice president under Franklin Roosevelt, who actually appointed this guy. So should
Oh.
we thank this guy who did the wheat, or should we thank Henry Wallace? Or should we thank George Washington Carver, who actually helped induced about food or growing vegetables and all as to Henry Wallace when Henry Wallace was 6 years old? Or should we thank the two people because the Carver was from a African community,
Mm.
mother and parents were killed in a fire, and another family grew him up. So should we thank him? So it's called butterfly effect. So
Yeah.
one person can change the universe. You can change the universe,
Absolutely.
Roger. Just one person. And that's
You,
why
you,
the God, all the energies or angels always worried. Even in Bible and all, they say, if one person goes away, take care of that person. Because
you know,
what you
yesterday I
do
was
is a
listening.
butterfly effect.
Yesterday I was listening to a very interesting lecture by Manly P. Hall. Have you heard of him? Manly P. Hall. I love him, and he was talking at maybe 80 years old, and and anyway, he's talking about um, angels. Do we have a guardian angel? That's the topic. That's a question mark. And he says throughout history, ma- humans depicted in every single religion, there's a depiction of angel, or these forces that have a form, that are intermediaries between God and people, like the Greeks. They lived among them, so like different engagement levels at different times in human history. And it said, and when you talk about a space where people come together, at the end of the day, a congregation or a gathering is a collective of the people in the community. So if you have a large membership of that community that participates in the respect of one value system, and then they go back to the community, the crime rate is going to be down. Why? Because they have values, right? Religions typically have moral structures. Don't, like in Christianity, Judaism, Islam, don't kill, don't, etc. So, right? So all religions gave us amazing instructions, no matter which religions. So basically, when you have these different people who share a belief system, okay, they come together. It's very powerful, their energy, because they have that faith. But then when they go back to their communities, that faith is a moral system and a system of sociological system of engagement between people that keeps that area safe. Because if that religion believes and says that stealing is wrong and everyone does not steal, right, and those people are in the community, so of course when they come together as well, it's so when they're together and when they're separated, there needs to be that synchronization. In my country here, I'll tell you something. They will walk into the church, and I'm telling you, and I know I'm responsible for what I'm saying. They will go into the church and they will walk out of the church, and between walking in and walking out, they've committed 30 crimes. Okay, so so there are societies where religion has like become, you know, like a what do you call it? Just a face, a shell for rituals, not moral structures, but rituals. You know, like we do it a certain way for 500 years. We get married in a church, and we do things in certain ways. But then those ways, like, you know, they're against what we're talking about. Like if we are going to evolve as humans, first we can only evolve in a community. Because you know, you were talking about who said it first and what doesn't. You know, there's a saying, and I'm sure you've heard it. When a wise man was asked, "What do you think of the other?" he says, "There is no other." So therefore, we are all in a codependency state between each other, and therefore, you know, one thing led to another. You know, Freud and Carl Jung came at the same time. They conflicted. They were friends. They worked together. They conflicted. And you know, today I'm doing something in relation to Freud. And I mean, we were a sick society to even have, you know, Freud dominating our psychology students' books, while Carl Jung is thrown in the garbage. While you know, and you know, like today I just discovered, for example, that Freud, and during his time, was the discovery of cocaine, and he was actually the promoter. It's like the early adopter of cocaine, okay, to be used as medicine, right? And actually, that was nurtured in the media and television and blah. So his philosophy for cocaine was a product of the medical industry, and he commercialized it, basically addiction, right? So what do we teach? And like, um, yeah, so I want to go back to teaching. You know, we were speaking before about the program, and I want to go to one of the core questions. Success in the business world, in our co-belief, is linked to our spiritual well-being. We're not just talking about, you know, living that materialistic life. There are things that we need to do to fulfill our duties to the universe and God, in a sense, right? So when you're coaching somebody, you do coach people, and you do coach people in high places of responsibility. So they are the ones actually, the ones who set a vision and the direction and the evolutionary pathway of an organization, but not only of an organization, an entire community, right? So those people are the decision makers now, and what we are going through in the world. They are the ones whose decisions, if they are money driven, they are affecting the food, the livelihood of people. But when they're contributing positively to their communities, right? And this always comes out of, you know, spirituality is always linked to external, to the community. What are we doing for people? How are we bettering our societies? So what is your philosophy on that, like spiritual guidance? Because I know you're a spiritual guide too. So what is the philosophy that you try to convince and instill in your clients?
I think that I give a little bit scientific approach. So let's take, if we can see two hands. Let's say this hand is your mind and this hand is your heart. So as a kid, your mind and heart is together. You laugh, you cry, you're always stable. But the day you judge yourself, that's the first day it gets split. And if it keeps moving away and away and away, there comes a point where you have no connection between yourself. That's why people go for
Mhm.
suicides, or they get into a situation where they are in a very, very tough situation. They want to just end the life because they have no connection between them. So all the problems in the world, even in the war is not between Russia. War is inside Putin. So between the mind and the heart, the war is inside him. So whatever happens in this world is between you and you. And whatever happens inside you, you will see in the reflection outside. All the material things which you see outside, the frustration, joblessness, whatever is happening,
Mhm.
is the complications happening between you and you.
Yeah.
The moment this is sorted, either he gets a job, he gets some money, or he moves out from that place. So he basically shifts from problem to solution. But as
Mhm.
long as you have this conflict between you, your mind, and your heart, you will stay in the same situation where you are. So we need to understand, how do we solve this? So that's where I come in. My healing, if you ask me, what is the difference from all the healings other people do and my healing? My healing focuses on basically to connect this mind and heart together. Because what I understand, this mind itself is divided into two. You have right brain and your left brain. Right brain is all about emotions, colors, music, fun, more connected to your subconscious, because the gut feeling, everything is from that side. And left brain is more about reasoning, questioning, logical, all these things comes that.
Yeah.
And so logical is good. It helps you to support your ego, but left brain can handle your ego for a long time. But one point, your right brain will start asking questions. Okay, you have things, you have everything, but there is something missing in you. That's when your right brain asking the right question. The day
Mhm.
you ask yourself, what am I doing here? What is all this happening? What am I here? Why is this people suffering? Or all this is happening to us? What is this? The moment you start asking questions, you're asking the right question. And the answer is not outside, the answer is inside you. The moment you go inside, everything changes. The dress you wear, the food you eat, the friends you have, the job you have, the situation you are in is all the reflection about you towards yourself. So
Absolutely.
you just close your eyes, sit 10 minutes. First 5 minutes, you'll have all this crap in the world coming in your mind. And after 5 minutes, there'll be some silence. That 5 minutes of silence is actually the connecting point of you. Everybody knows who you are at the time of death. At the time of death, you know who you are. You're not Roger, you're not this body. You are that guy who comes out of your body when you die. So at the time of death, you know your truth. But you don't have to die to know who you are. You can be alive and still know who's the guy inside you. So, what is that
Absolutely.
effort you can take to go inside and understand? If everybody starts looking inside, everything will be solved. Trust me, Roger, it is
Absolutely.
true, because I've seen situations, I've been through situations which you've been explaining. And the only difference was the moment you start focusing inside, everything outside starts changing. But if you can teach people that, you can change a society, you can change a country. You can be that revolution energy, because one energy changes. You know, butterfly effect is, a butterfly flings its wings, it can
Yeah.
create a hurricane outside some other place. That's what it says. So the wings, the vibration goes, changes the molecules in one area, it changes the molecules in another area. And in
Mhm.
one place, the molecule is so huge, it can create a hurricane. So one small butterfly, if it can create
Yeah.
a hurricane, you can change the universe. You can change the world, Roger. Just by your thought,
Yeah.
just by your meditation, just by going inside.
Yeah, this same lecture I was telling you about Manly P. Hall, he was talking about how the power of one individual. And he actually, in the same lecture, so he gave the example first of, um, 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 what's his name? Wait 1 second. He gave first an example. Of course, he names all the prophets that they were individuals. None of them were highly educated or educated at all. So their philosophies were all simple language. So none of them were academics. Okay. And he says, and they are the ones who made the biggest impact on the world because they were guided by that force within them that they found within them as an individuals. And he mentions Gandhi, the power of Gandhi, right? I mean, Gandhi, just because of one person decided to stand up and say no, people started because they started seeing the vision. Like you said, if you spend 5 minutes just understanding what that person was trying to tell you, you say he has a point. He was trying to avoid people an economic death, and he saw this is what we own and this is our right as people to defend it and to feed ourselves. So you cannot go and sell it and put us without food and hunger, right? So we're like, we deserve the right to food like us, like you, and it's one individual. So there were always the power of the individual. Tell me a bit, like, Feng Shui. I know it's more on spaces, right? How do we create better spaces? But what is the core when it comes to the influence on the individual,
Feng Shui is
regardless of
again
how it's used?
perfect. Feng Shui is again science. Let's say Earth is a magnet. You're a magnet. You align yourself. You sleep in a proper position in every night. The blood flow in the brain goes fine. You get a fresh. You have a great day. You have a great life. Let's say you sleep in an opposite direction. As a magnet. You're sleeping against a opposite magnet. You have your blood flow doesn't go. You have headache when you wake up. You have a bad day. You have a bad
Mm,
life.
okay.
It's just because of the magnetism. I call Feng Shui as pure magnetism. Because
Okay.
if you can align yourself, if you can change your surroundings, you can change your life. You can change your direction, you can change your life. Because there are people who go to healing, they feel good from the healing center. The moment they enter the house, bomb, it's gone.
Absolutely
Or they
gone.
feel it's because there is an energy, because the house itself is like a living being. So you're spending most of your time in that place. And that energy influences you. So if you have a wrong direction, if you don't know where to sleep, you don't know where to sit, which is the right thing to keep in the house. Like I play with only elements. I don't keep any
Yeah.
statues and all in Feng Shui consultancy. I keep plants, I keep crystals or stones, I keep water, fountain, I keep some metals, and I keep some, so basically earth, plant, some candles. See, these are the only
Mm,
elements I use to balance an energy. So it's basically a
yeah.
simple concept. If you're happy sitting in a park or a forest, you can create the same atmosphere in your home and create the same balance. So I don't promise that you will get $1 million the moment you do Feng Shui. No. The first thing you get is peace of mind. And the second thing you
Yeah.
get is clarity. So any human being who's got peace and clarity can think properly for himself and get what he wants. If these two
Mhm.
elements are not there, the people get confused and they start looking for things which they don't know what they're doing. And as
If you
we
think
were
about
talking about perfect,
anxiety, like you said the word clarity, and I can think on the opposite side is anxiety. Because
exactly.
clarity is you knowing where you're going and you're going in that direction. You have clarity all the time. While anxiety is that you have so many options and you don't know where to go. And you're stuck in the same place and just worried about the outcomes of each of them. And none of them even yet happened. So yeah, absolutely. I can see the value of aligning one's kind of, to center their thoughts around what they really want and to kind of be guided by, that force that they find in. Yeah.
I think I'll share one very important. Like I started my journey in 1997. I took my first courses and all. I mean, I've done almost 22 certifications in this 26 years of spiritual journey. I started in 1997. So in this 26 years, the biggest lesson for me is your connection to yourself. And what you think about yourself is the exact thing people think about you. I repeat, whatever Roger thinks about Roger is the exact thing people think about Roger.
Yeah.
So if you want to change anything around you, don't try to change other thing or people or third party or anything. It will never happen. You can never change anybody. But if you
Change
change
yourself.
yourself, everything around you changes.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Exactly. But let's focus on ourselves. I think we're done out of time. I'm so grateful to you. This was really amazing. And I like the
thank you.
simplicity of how you put it, because sometimes we complicate things too much. And I think the core message is learn how to look more inside, find that purpose within you, and have the clarity to pursue it. So amazing. I'm so happy to have you. And
Thank you so
hopefully,
much.
we'll have another discussion soon. Namaste.
Okay. Namaste.
Take care
Thank
of
you. Thank you
yourself.
so much for having me. Thank you.